Hello everyone and welcome to the Edward White Audio Thoughts. In today's episode I'm speaking to a woman called Kat Hill. She's an NLP coach, an osteopath and also a yoga teacher. In today's episode we talk about the limited beliefs of the mindset, how you can earn more money as an entrepreneur, how you can stop the limiting beliefs from our childhood and other aspects. It's a really insightful episode and essentially just a coaching session for me, so enjoy this episode. Again, if you have any comments, leave them down below and I will get them answered for you. Enjoy the episode. Hello everyone, welcome to the Edward White Audio Thoughts. Today I'm joined by Kat Hill and we are going to be talking about all things coaching and various different things. Firstly, can you just tell me what NLP stands for?
So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And if I break that down for you, it's kind of all about the words that we use day to day, even how we speak to ourselves. And the words that we use, are quite surprising, and that we use them because they're programmed into us from an early age. So it's kind of about recognizing that the words that you use every day and breaking them down.
So where did NLP start?
Well, there's a lot of different sort of ideas about it. It's been going on for a little while. They used to use it in business first. Mm-hmm. Actually, a lot of the people in business used to use it to get what they want. Mm-hmm. Because by understanding how different people work, you can use the words that resonate with them more and are more likely to get like a positive response. But there is like a big psychology behind them. Like if you delve into coaching and NLP, it's all about like beliefs that we've adopted as children. So you could maybe go back to cognitive psychology, developmental psychology within children. And it's probably that would be the stem of it.
Mm. So what do you think is like the most common belief system that people have? What would you, from your like perspective, what have you noticed is the most like common belief system that people have got?
I mean, the two things most things, if not everything, comes down to is this underlying feeling of one, I'm not enough, or I'm not loved. I'm unloved. Like if you really come down to the crux of it all, it's that feeling of either not feeling loved or not feeling enough. And I think in today's society, with how we live as well, we used to always live in communities and tribes. We've lost our connection with who we are, and also that family support base, that network. And, we've kind of lost that feeling of belonging, being enough, and perhaps because of that connection, not feeling quite loved enough.
How do you think that is... How do you think that's portrayed in people's life, that unloved or unwantedness?
It could literally be anything. For example, high achievers, they think the next thing is always going to make them enough. They're going to be better.
And it's not that far away either, is it? It's always like just that next thing.
Yeah, it's like I will be enough when I have this car. I will be enough when I reach manager. Then they get there and they still don't feel enough. So then they move on to the next thing. Like when I get this, I'll be enough. I'll feel enough. So it's perpetuating. And you could take it onto the gym. We don't have to be business. We could take it to the gym. It's like, when I weigh this much, I will feel enough. I will look enough. I'll be more accepted. When I have this much muscle, blah, 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 blah. So it's, you can take it to any part of your life, essentially.
Yeah, I think women, some women, I shouldn't paint a broad brush, but women do it with family and children, I find, or some women, should I say, do it with family and children. It's like, oh, when I have kids or when I do X, I will feel enough.
Yeah. I suppose men and women, like when I get married and have a house, I think I'm 33, nearly 34, but I definitely find like in the early 30s, late 20s, it's like, oh, when I have a house, whatever, like I don't have a house, I don't have a car. when I have this ideal partner,
Yeah.
when we get married and have kids. And, I can look around me and a lot of my friends are married and have a house, and not everybody's happy.
No.
So I think, we grow up with that paradigm of, you will get married and have kids and have a house, blah, blah, blah. And that's not necessarily true, especially in today's day and age. We have so many different options and possibilities. I've definitely met some men that think when I meet this certain partner, everything will be complete.
Yeah.
When I have this car, everything will be complete. When I have this promotion, when I buy this bigger house, it's you could, apply it everywhere.
So how does someone get over that?
Well, I think first things first, obviously, as well as coaching, I'm a yoga teacher and an osteopath. So a lot about yoga is meditation. In today's world, we think it's all about like putting your foot on your head or whatever. It's not about that. It's about like feeling that sense of like inner peace, inner joy. And really, meditation and breath work are one of the best ways to get there. So for a lot of people, when I lead them through meditation and coaching or through yoga, I get them to look at themselves in a mirror, look at themselves. I bet you 80 to 90% of people look down. They can't look at themselves. They just feel awkward looking at themselves.
Sorry, I can compare that in my line of work in the sense that people hate themselves on video and they hate themselves in photos. So yeah, just that comparison is like, oh, I hate myself on video. It probably links back to what you're saying.
Or in a podcast, I hate my voice.
Yeah.
My voice. It's that same thing. And just, can you say the words to yourself like, I am enough? That's the first thing. Say it. Even if you don't believe it straight away, start. You've got to start somewhere. And then ask yourself like this question. I like to link back on it. When will you be enough? If I asked you, I mean, you don't have to tell me personally, but
that's all right. Free coaching session.
Like, what would have to happen for you to feel enough? Like, if you give me the top 3 things off the top of your head.
Financially stable.
Okay, I pause. What does financially stable mean?
For me, that means being able to live a life where I don't have to worry if there's something that I want to do, or so say for example, I'm not talking like big spending money. Like if I wanted to go on holiday, I want to feel, which I'm trying to work towards, but like feeling comfortable, just essentially having a stable income that I feel is matching with my needs. Like I'm an entrepreneur, so it fluctuates so much.
I'm self-employed as well.
Yeah,
totally get it.
So and for me, like I'm building in things in place, so I'm saving regularly so that I've got a fallback. But I want to be able to have an income that I can go, right, I want to go traveling around Europe, or I want to go pop to wherever, and then being able to do that. I think that's for me is my financial freedom.
Financial freedom. Okay.
You asked for free, didn't you?
Well, yeah. Well, I think financial stability is really interesting because.
Do you want to pick that apart?
Yeah.
Go on then.
So if that's okay.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
So, for example, by the end of that explanation, you came up with financial freedom. Most of us are somewhat financially stable who may be listening to this because we're not living on the street.
No.
There's a difference between financial freedom and financial stability. If you were to have that financial freedom, you mentioned that would enable you to travel, take time off work. Do you have that ability now to do that?
No.
Okay. If you had that, would the other parts of your life change? For example, your intimate relationships or the home that you had?
Not the home, but I think the intimate relationships, because of that, spending more time with people and stuff. And I want to take my daughter around Europe and stuff and do it while she's young enough to enjoy it, and not like what actually want to spend time with me, and not yeah, still remember it, if you know what I mean, like old enough to remember it. So yeah. Home, no.
So it's really interesting. It's like, well, okay, visualize yourself, you've got this financial freedom, but in order to get that financial freedom, there's a lot that you would have had to put in, which would have maybe taken away from time with your daughter initially, for then to enable you to go away for however long. Okay, so you're in Europe or wherever you are, maybe Thailand, wherever you're going. Okay, you're with your daughter. Then will you feel enough?
I think so. Yeah, I think it would be that feeling of just making memories, really. I think, yeah.
So there's a lot of different parts of life. We talked about home, so your home wouldn't be different.
No.
Intimate relationships, they wouldn't be different. Your health.
I think for me, having the ability to say, I want to go and take 2 weeks off and go wherever. Yeah, I think. And because I am one that can work and work and work. And I've definitely got better at it, like going to the gym, making sure I'm doing walks, seeing sunlight, drinking water, sleeping at an appropriate time. All of that stuff I'm like trying to do so that I can go, I don't need to work. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that it's interesting because when you had financial, you've got financial freedom, you wouldn't have to work, but you can only have financial freedom for so long before you have to work again.
Yeah.
So that would be great for that time you're away. Then you come back from traveling. Then what?
Well, yeah, it's that kind of thing of like, you have to earn more, or not necessarily earn more, but just that having that stableness of it, maybe.
Yeah, the stability of it.
Yeah.
If you like weren't to go away and travel, if you weren't able to do that, how would that make you feel?
Bit pent up, a bit
frustrated.
Yeah, just like I'd feel okay, but then I like having something to look forward to, and I like having something. Yeah.
Okay. So I think, like, for example, that you'd feel enough at that time that you're away and having a great time, but then you come back and then you're back to like, what do I need to do to feel enough, right?
But
so
the thing
you
is,
can
I
feel
love
enough for a short time. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I love working, and I love, like, well, the way I see it is like my life's in different kind of buckets. So I've got like the family bucket, which is just me and my daughter. I've got like the work bucket. I've got the adventure bucket. I've got the fitness bucket, and I'm trying to essentially manage all of those so that I don't empty one of them.
Great.
And feel completely depleted because I've not gone to the gym at all this week, or not had any walks this week. Or like, not spending enough time with my daughter and pushing that off. It's like, it's for me, I don't feel depleted when I've come back and I'm like, I've got work more. I'm like, all right, so I think, that's my difference.
I mean, that's great that your work fulfills you. Like, I love my work. I think it seems rare nowadays that people actually enjoy their work.
It does, doesn't it?
But
it saddens
I really
me, actually.
enjoy it. It is quite sad. But, I think after COVID, you can take away a lot of positives, that people started to branch out and started doing things that actually interested them or got creative again, etc.
The Shopify, the platform.
Shopify.
So it's like an online e-commerce platform for building businesses. Their revenue and user base increased so much over the COVID period. Like, loads of businesses were going down and stuff, but people were starting their own businesses and developing new things, which I found really interesting. And
I had only been back in England for 7 months.
Oh, wow.
COVID happened and
Yeah.
I just restarted a business from scratch. So, and osteopathy was closed for 3 months until it was classified as healthcare.
Oh, okay.
And I teach yoga as well, and all the gyms were shut.
Mm.
But once I reopened, I was actually like the largest growth I've ever seen through my
Really?
business, through having a business.
Cool.
So I think there are like positives to it. But so circling back round,
Yeah, that's
'cause
right.
I know I'm very easy to go off on a tangent.
Yeah, it's totally.
So that feeling of being enough, like for example, you said like if you hadn't been for your walks, you'd feel rubbish that week.
Yeah, I feel it. If I don't go for a morning walk, I feel shit.
Yeah, and I think whilst exercise is super important, really, really good, really important for hormones and all sorts of reasons, health, mental health. You know, when you can have a week where you feel off and you don't go for that walk for a week, when you can reach that point where you just show compassion for yourself, like I'm really tired, I've had a hard week, this is just what I needed to do. Instead of beating yourself up, like, oh, I feel shit. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear, sorry.
No,
Like,
yeah, totally, yeah.
Okay. Like, when you reach that point where you're not beating yourself up,
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely different to showing yourself compassion. If you have a few days off, if you know that you've been lazy and you just haven't done it because you can't be bothered, you know, maybe you show yourself compassion one day, then you're like, I want to reach these goals, so I'm going to get back into it.
So, right, what's the balance between compassion and letting yourself be a little bitch, or actually being like, right, no, come on, and like motivating, and that kind of sports coach that's like, no, come on, like grind. What is the balance between that?
Yeah, I think you know in yourself. For example, like I'll give you an example just recently for me. I normally get up at 6 and go to the gym before work every morning. It's really cold and dark right now, right?
Yeah.
So Monday, 2 weeks ago, Monday, my alarm went off and I just couldn't get out of bed. I was like, it's too cold, I'm not going. So I snoozed my alarm, I went back to bed, and I woke up again at 8 and then got ready for work really quickly, and off I went. I actually felt like very rested and like I just needed that sleep. So I didn't feel like, oh, Kat, that was really lazy, whatever. And I made time to go to the gym later on that day. The next Monday, I did exactly the same thing. I pushed the button and I just had all the excuses under the sun, like, oh, you know, maybe I'm tired, I need to rest. I woke up at 7:30 and I just felt annoyed at myself.
Yeah.
Because I actually was fine. I could have got up. I was just being lazy. So I think it's having that ability to be compassionate, but also objective. Like a lot of yogi philosophy teaches you to be objective. Like, you know, when you meditate, you're observing the thoughts that come in, but you're not letting them overwhelm you or absorb you. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like you observe the thoughts that come in. Yes, the first week I was like, oh, I feel a lot better for having the sleep. The second week I was like, oh God, I feel awful. I just feel like, oh, that was a lot of excuses, Kat. Like you really just needed to get up and go. This Monday, I pushed the button, I went to the gym. So I think it's about being objective with yourself, observing your thoughts objectively. It's really easy I think it's very easy if you're self-employed. If you're competitive, like I'm quite competitive. I kickboxed for like 7 years. I was a kickbox instructor before I ever taught yoga. I'm one of those quietly competitive people. It's really easy for us to beat ourselves up, but it doesn't always help, because what happens when you push yourself, especially at the gym, when you're really tired, you get injured. It's easy. Or, you know, maybe compassion is like, hey, I'm not going to hit a big weight workout today. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm not going to go for a 5K today. I'm going to do some yoga.
So would you say having almost like contingencies in place? So I've got like a gym routine that I'm like, all right, I'll go and do whatever each day. And then maybe if I'm not feeling 100% up to it, or I didn't have the sleep, having like essentially like a fallback. So it's like, I will do maybe just a HIIT workout today instead of like full weights, because
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
if you're not going to go to gym today because you're tired, when can you schedule it in later in the week? Or does that mean that you're not going to have your Friday pizza?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's, but it's like also not beating yourself up. I used to kickbox 4 times a week and gym 5 times a week. And, if I didn't go to kickboxing, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to get
It's
so
ruined,
fat.
yeah.
Everyone's going to be faster than me. I'm going to be so slow, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And it's just not true. It's not true. It's just the thoughts we tell ourselves in our head. And how does that make me feel? Crap. Yeah. And no one else has done that to myself except for me. So it's about like finding that kind of compassion. And that's, when you can show yourself compassion without beating yourself up, without judgment, then you've started to feel more enough as you are. So what, you slept in, you're still a good person, you're still kind, you're still good at your job. Nothing changes. It's learning that compassion for yourself, but also, being objective and self-motivated enough to know your contingency plan, or like, okay, this is what will happen next week. This isn't going to happen next Monday.
I would push back just a little bit. And that is
sure.
in the sense of tomorrow Edward is fantastic. He can get up, he can go to the gym, he can do a load of work, have time to go to the gym, eat perfectly, do whatever. And in my head, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to do tomorrow. So I'm going to push it back to tomorrow. Where do you think the line is that you say, stop? Like, so I've got a kind of concept in my head of like, does future Eddie want to do it? And whether that's cleaning or like we were talking about before, the tax accountant stuff, does future Eddie want to do it? And it's like, no, because if you just did it now, it's done.
Yeah.
So
why? I mean, if you feel in the mood to do it, do it. But if you're really like, I don't want to do this.
No.
I think it's good to work out why. One is boring normally, right? Or like you're not invested in it.
Yeah.
So then you need to come back to your goal, essentially. So this is what coaching is about. Like, what is your vision? So I know we've spoken a lot about the gym, but maybe it's easier to talk about that. So what is my vision? Like, what's my goal? I want to look a certain way. I think is a week goal.
Should we do it about business?
Yeah, sure. If we go really specific business goal.
Okay. For me?
Yeah.
Shit. All right. Specific business goal. I don't have any like specific business goals.
Okay. Well, we mentioned, right, we'll go back to your first one. So you mentioned financial freedom.
Yeah.
Okay. What would financial freedom look to you being able to take off X amount of time to go traveling?
Well, financial freedom for me is £5,000 a month.
£5,000 a month. So you've got a number already.
I've got a number, yeah.
So that's a specific goal.
Yeah, in terms of like saving, living, and the fun essentially. That kind of cost, yeah.
So your financial goal would be £5,000 a month income after tax or whatever?
Income, yeah. So before tax.
Before tax?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before tax? I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically,
okay,
£5,000 a month is, yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. So you've got that like sort of business sort of financial goal there. 5,000, right. And then you've got that goal there and what that's going to achieve for you, where you're going to put that money. And then you need to look at what you currently make. You don't have to tell me, but keep that in your mind, right? So you've got that, what you currently make. Yeah.
It's about 2,000. I'm pretty open.
Roughly
so,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you look at the leap. And for a lot of people, that leap makes it seem unattainable. Okay. So then we start building little steps. So what is it going to take for me to earn from this month to 2 months' time? You would set that goal. Is it 2,500 or 3,000? You would set that goal. And then you start working backwards. How am I going to get that income?
Oh, so you start with the end goal in mind.
Yeah. So for example, you pick whichever number you want. In 2 months' time, how much money are you going to earn?
So 2,500.
2,500. In your mind, do you have one or two steps that would help you get that 2,500.
So it would be essentially business development and maybe, business development, yeah.
Business development in like what aspect? Like marketing?
Or outreach and
Outreach. Okay.
yeah, approaching clients essentially.
Okay,
yeah.
great. So approaching clients outreach. So that would need time. Yeah, time. So if you were like, oh, I really need to do marketing today or reach out to people, send emails, but I can't be bothered. I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I just can't be bothered, whatever. Then you coming back to your vision of why you want that money is going to help you progress, right? If you have no idea why you're doing that, why you're spending time with outreach, or you have very vague numbers, you've got nothing to work towards, essentially. You've got no goal. What's the point in running if you don't have an endpoint? So you got to start backwards. It's like, yes. So 1 month you might monitor, am I moving closer to my goal? If yes, awesome, great. Now what? If no, why? What haven't I done? What haven't I invested the time into? And then when it comes back to it in 2 months' time, you're like, oh, I'm still not earning 2,500. You need to take that accountability for yourself. Like, why haven't you?
Yeah, the ownership sort of thing. And, yeah.
Massively right now, we're in financial crisis. I'm using, the little hands because, we've always had some sort of financial crisis. I graduated during the recession in 20, whenever it was, a long time ago, 2011 or something.
Yeah.
And I had to go out there on my own because nobody was hiring.
No.
But I made it work, and I'm still an osteopath nearly 12 years on. But I think like 30 to 40% of my year group aren't working as osteopaths anymore.
Really? Okay.
So, we need to take that accountability for ourselves. Yes, there's a financial crisis, but we just spoke about businesses during COVID absolutely thriving.
And you've just lived through 2 years of real uncertainty.
Exactly. If we can live through that, we can live through anything, right?
So I quite like the way you put that. And I think for me, it watching the news is just a no-go in the sense of...
I don't have the news on in my house at all.
No, it's just anxiety-inducing headlines. There's never any positives from it. Yeah. And I see it in my world where people fall into one of two categories, and that's either a like get up and go mindset and I can do this, or a full like woe is me, help me.
I think that the thing like with the get up and go mindset is fab when you're feeling it. But what I find in my is that like people like David Goggins, I don't know if you're aware of him.
I've never read any of his books. I need to, but
sorry, come back to what we talk about. David Goggins, go.
Jacko Willink's a bit like that as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure of him.
No.
But we need to make things sustainable because this is classic, I don't know, bodybuilders peak, right? They smash it all out. What happens? One, women become infertile, broken bones because of their demineralization, because they're not eating the nutrients they need to at the very end of their comps. Same in kickboxers. I treat a lot of MMA fighters and that. They just at the very last 2 weeks, they basically starve themselves to cut weight. And dehydrate themselves as well. Injuries, dehydrate. Yeah. It's rubbish. It's absolutely rubbish, right? And if you do things more sustainably, you're healthier over time. That's why when we talked about the 2-month window, it's a step to a step. And this is how we sustainably reach our goals without burnout and without some part of our life having to suffer.
So right, okay. I think that goes back to the point of like the bucket thing for me.
So that's a really good analogy. Yeah.
So how do you think people can do that? And how do you think people can manage it effectively so they're not letting things slip in their, say, family life, in their because I can find it so easy to go, oh, I've done a hard day of work. I'm just going to eat like shit. I'm just going to buy whatever pizza. And whereas I know deep down, like I know if I eat that, I'm going to feel horrible, and I'm going to feel horrible for the day after. But it's really hard in the moment to go, I'm not going to sit and watch Netflix tonight. I'm going to maybe read a book, or I'm going to call a friend or something. And it's easy to go, oh, here's this little short dopamine thing that's going to draw you in. Sorry, this is a long-winded question, but yeah, essentially, how do you manage that so that you're staying on track without burning out, without just like solid, just go, and being mindful, essentially?
Well, I think one, the compassion component comes back in. Like, we all have a day. We all do have a day where we're like, I just need to cocoon away today, eat a pizza, watch Netflix. And I think sometimes we just need that, but it's not. The most important thing is it's not every day. Okay. Depending on whatever goal you have, if your goal is business driven, you only have so much energy. So perhaps more of your energy will be going into that. That's just how it works. But it's like, if your business life, your financial life, or your business, your work was a 9 out of 10 energy you're giving it, it's like then making sure that your personal relationships or your intimate relationships are not like a 1 out of 10. If they maybe have to sit at a 6 out of 10 for a couple of weeks, okay, but make sure that you get some sort of time in to fix that. For example, if you've been working flat out all week and you haven't had time to see your daughter, on a Sunday you make an effort to go and spend the afternoon with her and take her out somewhere. So it doesn't have to be, one pebble in each bucket every single day.
No.
Some days it might vary very slightly, but then you make up for it at the end of the week. And I mean, it's not like, I'm sure there are business people out there high up there that are 10 out of 10 in business and their family life is a 1 out of 10. And they're like, oh, it's her birthday, we'll take her out, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No.
You need to check in with yourself.
I think a lot of people, people
that's fine.
Do that, where they idolize people like Steve Jobs, Tiger Woods, all these really high performers, and they don't actually look at their life as a whole and go, oh, Steve Jobs had a daughter called Lisa who he like basically just abandoned.
Yeah.
And then Tiger Woods' marriage and life, and had loads of affairs and stuff, and like no one looks at that and goes, right, is that the kind of lifestyle that I want to be living?
Yeah, and I do think that's partly to do with media and how we seem to glorify certain aspects.
We only see the
good.
Yeah, the show reel, essentially, don't we?
Yeah, and I think there's so many examples of that in the media amongst like famous people. And it's kind of coming back to like, what kind of life do you want to lead? Yeah, you can be successful, but do you want to die alone? What is your legacy you want to leave behind? Like massive house, you can't take your money with you when you die. No. But it does give you a lot of freedom in life. But if you've got no one to spend that with, what's the point? Right? So it's having your goal there, your reality check. These people, their goal was only ever one thing, and it was very narrow. And I think to have a balanced life, you need to have like a balanced perspective of what you want. In coaching, one of the first sessions I do is like a very deep meditation. It's called castle view meditation. And we go deep in a meditation. We talk about your dream house, your castle, essentially, what it looks like, where it is, location, whatever, even down to like what surfaces you have in your kitchen. And we talk about, what does it smell like? Who's there with you in your castle? What do you do for your work whilst you live in this castle? You've got to think about all parts of your life. Like money's just a tiny part of life. Same as like, maybe a lot of people my age fixate on like, if I had this partner, everything would be great. But how many of us know that couple that look great on paper I know couples that have been coming to me for years. They've been together over 10 years, got a kid. What happened during COVID? They split up, you know?
And
You
they're
look
still
at these
posting like
people-
perfect pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, you look at these people and you think, oh, they're so happy. They have everything. Nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors.
No.
So, for example, if you were even if you put all your energy into that one relationship, what happens when it's over? You're fucked, right?
Yeah, you burnt the
But
bridges
if
with
you-
your friends and stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, you're not doing the career you always wanted to do because you wanted to invest more time into them and doing what they want to do. You haven't been doing the exercises you wanted to do or the classes you wanted to do because, hey, that didn't fit in with him or her or whatever. And now you're on your own. Great. What now? You're unhappy. You hate your work. You haven't got many friends. Like you feel unfit and fat or whatever, skinny. I know it goes both ways.
Yeah.
you know? But if you're really honest and you enter into your relationship both knowing as well, like what's important to both of you, what you both value, and you're with someone that respects that, then you allow each other to put time into what's important to you. And then if that relationship ends, yeah, it sucks.
So
but hey, you've got everything else.
How do you think people can do that at the start of a relationship?
At the start, well, I think it's important to think about first what you value. And there's like this really interesting technique in coaching I like. And you write down on a piece of paper all the things that you would like in a partner. So like my top 3 off the top of my head, just quickly, would be like honesty, reliability, and probably adventure, something like that. That's off the top of my head. Honesty, reliability, adventure. Okay, so you write your list and you write down as many things as you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you want to give me your top 3, Ed.
Get a partner. Drive. Compassion. And openness. Great.
So you would write this down. I'm sure there's more than 3. Like most of us are more than 3. Like for me, like health is a massive value as well. So I write down this list here of all the things I want in a partner. Then I go down the list and I think, am I that? Am I that?
Oh, so you compare yourself to the list that you've made.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why are you asking for somebody that's like really healthy and fit if you're not healthy and fit? Why are you asking for someone that's driven if you're not driven?
Yeah.
Because you attract the energy in that you give out, essentially. And if you're like constantly, if you're basically thinking, oh, this person's so driven, I'm going to be with them, then down the line, your energies won't match anyway.
No, because you'll probably begrudge him, won't you, or her?
It's like, oh, he's always at work.
Yeah. That thing I wanted is like he's always doing, and he's never got time for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think like a really good thing before you even go into a relationship is write down the qualities you'd like in a partner, and then go down and see all the qualities that you are first. If you want those qualities in someone, you need to live those qualities first.
Okay. So say someone does say, like a woman says, I want a driven man or woman, whatever, and she's not driven herself, how could she then go and become more driven or look introspectively and say, right, I want to become more driven? Like, how does she then do that? What's the kind of steps that you would take?
People only ever feel driven when they feel passion, right? So what in their life fills them with passion? What are they passionate about first? To be driven doesn't necessarily mean you have to be driven about your work. It could be that you're really driven towards maybe a cause, like I'm really driven in my fitness goals, or I'm very driven in working for this charity. I'm very passionate about art and creating art, or learning. Another one, some people just love learning and they're really passionate about learning. So being driven doesn't have to just be about work. So I think you could review that. Like, what fills you with passion? What are you passionate about, essentially? If your passion is Netflix, something probably needs to change, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people do, though, or they fall into that.
In what way?
Like the Netflix sort of thing, or I don't know. For me, it feels like a lot of people numb themselves.
Yeah.
With
they're
food,
not passionate about Netflix.
porn, Netflix, fill in the blank of the easy thing that's to do, that's not hard work.
Yeah, why is that? They want to numb things. Why? Because they feel not enough. There's some insecurity in them that they cannot be with their own thoughts because it's so unnerving for them. It's stressful. So they're like, let's numb that. Disassociation.
Yeah. What are some, or are there, should I say, it would be the question, are there any like positive numbing methods?
Well, I don't think numbing is the right word.
No.
Basically, if you're numbing, you're disassociating and you're not being present, essentially. But I think there's unwinding rather than numbing.
But
for example, if you want to watch an hour of Netflix, it doesn't mean that you're, it's not like, I'm sure we've all been there where we spent a day just binge watching something. But that's numbing. But unwinding, we all need time to unwind, like taking an hour to just chill and switch off. Like meditation is basically a single focus. A lot of people think it's when you think about nothing, but it's actually coming down to a single focus, which is like either the breath or you're listening to a guided meditation following the adventure. That time that we're not thinking about like, oh God, I haven't cooked the dinner, I haven't been shopping, I haven't this, I need to do that, blah, 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 blah. That time that we take to just clear our minds is going to help reset our nervous system and help us function at a much better level. So if your relaxation, I don't personally think anything with screens is that good for your nervous system. But if that's the only way you can relax and you have an hour a day, fine, But because we all need to reset our nervous system. If we're running on adrenaline, sympathetic nervous system all the time, our bodies will crash. It will crash. We don't think as clearly. Our hormones and our bodies change when we're running on sympathetic system all the time as well. We're not as effective in any part of our lives. So for me, like meditation is the best way, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, to just quiet the mind, get into the body, and have that focus. Do you know why I tell people, and before they come to yoga, say switch your phones off. Like everything can wait an hour.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen in an hour that you can change or that will end your life. Like just switch your phone off. And I think people need to do that a bit more.
Sorry, yeah. Can you just talk about the sympathetic nerve or the sympathetic system that you were just, or expand into that a little bit more, please?
So when our nervous system is made out of two parts, our sympathetic system and our parasympathetic system. So our sympathetic system is fight and flight. It's what happens in our stress response. And there's, another one, freeze. So fight, flight, or freeze. So for example, caveman times, if something was trying to eat us, we'd either fight it off, we'd run away, or like some animals in the animal kingdom do, they faint. That's the freeze
like a possum,
response.
Play dead,
Yeah, this can come up in other ways in our modern day life. For example, the freeze response is often when people disassociate, and they'll be watching their Netflix for the day because they're frozen. They're just filled with overwhelm that they do nothing. The overwhelm is so much that they do nothing. They can't take action because they just can't process it. So and they'll be stuck in this chronic stress cycle. And that's all to do with the sympathetic nervous system. So, back in the day, we used to fight the bear or whatever, run away from it. And then our body would realize it was safe again. So then our parasympathetic nervous system would kick in. So parasympathetic is rest and digest. Everything slows down. If you think of parasympathetic like a parachute, it goes out, everything slows down. So this is important for resting, for sleeping and digesting. So like what's really common thing with stress nowadays? IBS. Why? Because the parasympathetic nervous system isn't working. We're still in the sympathetic place. Like when you're in that sympathetic place, your blood is going to your vital organs, to your limbs, because your heart needs to pump faster. That's why we get higher blood pressure. We get a lot of asthma, breathing issues are triggered in people when they're stressed. But nothing is really going into our digestion. Not very much is going into digestion. And we won't be sleeping very well at all either. So, yeah, and of course, if you're stressed, it's very hard to sleep when you're stressed.
Is there any relevance or is there any benefit to stress?
Yes. Stress isn't bad. Like it's a survival mechanism. If we didn't have it, we would probably die. So stress isn't a bad thing. There's two parts of the stress cycle. So the first part of the cycle is really essential. For example, if you're walking across a road and a car came towards you, you would run a bit quicker. That would be your sympathetic nervous system saying, get out of the way, survive, save yourself. Same way if someone tried to attack you in the street, maybe your body would just gut instinct, hit once, run, whatever. We do need it. And it's even the same if you touched a hot surface, you touch the stove and you're like that. That's still classed as a stress response. So when the first part kicks in, like our eyes dilate, our pupils dilate so we can see more clearly, our sense of hearing heightens, our sense of touch heightens, our heart increases, our breath rate increases to help us get safe. So the first part of the stress response is actually essential. We need it. And loads of things come into play there. What happens is when the second part happens, that's where it becomes an issue. When our body doesn't recognize that it's safe again and it can switch this nervous system response off, some hormones are released, and that releases cortisol into our body. So cortisol, most people have heard of as the stress hormone. So it collects in our muscles, so like upper back, neck, and also actually around the hips. And that's obviously what is quite tight for my patients when they're stressed, like neck and shoulders and lower back will often go. And that's because of the tension around the hips, where the cortisol collects. And it goes to those muscles because those are actually your main fight or flight muscles. So obviously hips make sense of running. But when you're stressed, you use these accessory breathing muscles that come from neck to shoulder. And they're accessory breathing muscles. They should not be your normal breathing muscles. They're for short term to get a bit more air into your lungs so you can run quicker, etc. Our real breathing muscle, I don't know if you can see, is your diaphragm muscle. So it's under the rib cage here. Okay. So when you breathe, if you breathe properly, when you breathe in, your diaphragm should expand and your ribs should come out. If I ask you to take a deep breath in now, most people go, the shoulders come up. What's wrong? That's how we've learned to breathe from being so stressed all the time. That should stay relaxed, and we should really use our diaphragm for our main breathing muscle. That's what it's designed for. Like a sprinter would maybe use these upper muscles, the scalenes and that, around the neck and shoulders for a sharp burst. But then their body needs to go, I'm safe again. Okay, so that's the second part of the stress cycle is the problem, because once the cortisol is released, it affects all our other hormones. Like in women, stress can stop people having periods, create regular periods because of the hormones released. In men, it can cause a few different things, like
it reduces testosterone, doesn't it?
Yeah, your hair can, you can lose as most people, you can lose your hair because of the hormones being affected. The cortisol will affect your thyroid as well, which is an important hormone. Obviously, like sexual dysfunction is a massive thing with stress as well. They can affect all parts of your life. And the problem is that we don't recognize when we're safe again. because one, it's frowned upon to hit someone or to run away from them. If we're in a business meeting, we can't exactly just get up and go. We have to just be in that state. And because we're so polite and everything nowadays, most of us are like, okay, you know, we're so classically British. Yeah. You know, someone could serve me dinner and it could be awful, and they'd come around and be like, how was your meal? And I'd be like, yeah, it's really nice, thanks.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like, oh, that's disgusting, I'm never going to eat it. That's, you know, that's very British, but we don't get this out of our body. It stays and it stores in our body essentially. So our body is never recognizing that it's safe again. This is why like breath work is so important. You know, you've got Wim Hof now. James Nestor writes an amazing book on breathing and breath.
What book's that?
James Nestor's book, Breath.
Okay. It's
really amazing. And he's a researcher, but he explains it just really easily. It's not too sciencey that it is overwhelming or whatever. The only way you can really calm your nervous system is to slow down your breath. Okay. So, you know, what does a dog do after it stops running around?
Panting.
Does a big yawn, stretches itself out. Okay. If something's really stressful or someone's cut you up in your car, then what do?
I've like got a mind like water with cars. I worked on it so much. My mum gets really stressed.
Yeah.
If I'm in the car with her and something happens, she'll get really irate, tense, and just like, oh. I'm like, calm down. But yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Right. That's a sigh, right? So, you know, if you've had a busy day, what's one thing people do? Sigh. Why? Because that's a long exhale. Long exhales activate your parasympathetic nervous system. This is a sign to your body to downregulate. Okay. So one of the best things I tell people to do, if you're going into a stressful situation, before you go in, if you're in your car, take a few sighs. Inhale, even longer exhale, big sigh. Okay.
Have you ever heard of the thing of the double inhale? So you do 2 long inhale, short inhale, exhale. So it's like I think it's called a physiological sigh.
Okay.
So you're essentially mocking that, and I learned it from Andrew Huberman, so I'm probably butchering it. But have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, not that one in particular, but I think it would have the same neurological effect. 2 short inhales and a long exhale.
Yeah, so you're taking as much breath as you can in, and then you're taking more than you think you can, and then you're letting it all go, and
So if you wanted to encourage your parasympathetics, you do a longer exhale. For example, Wim Hof breath is a sympathetic breath because it's these inhales are the more important part of the breath. Yeah. And the same in yoga breathing. We have a few breaths where like bellow breath, and it's all to activate the body, and you do it before your physical practice, and it's to help activate the body to get it moving.
Okay.
So if you wanted to feel more, if you were feeling really tired, you're like, oh God, man, I'm so knackered. You would do your inhale breaths with a heavier focus on the inhales to get your energy up and get you more activated. If you were really stressed, you had a really long day, or you're going into a business meeting you're nervous about, you would do a breath with the long exhale. If you just felt all over the place and you wanted to feel more grounded and you just wanted to center yourself, a really good breath to do would be like box breathing or 4-sided breath, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and then lengthen it out 5, 6, you know, all even sides. So depending on what you want for your goal of how to feel is how you would breathe.
Okay. Do you mind just doing that, like, again, in the sense of pick me up, take me down, calm me? So if we start with the pick me up, what is that breath work look like?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different ones.
And where would you say it's applicable?
Before exercise, like if you wanted to do an activated breath before exercise is a good time to do it. First thing in the morning, if you're feeling super tired, there's some of the yoga breaths for activation are really good for getting your body activated. So you do them before you eat your breakfast as well, which is good. So you'll do your active breath then. Me personally, I don't like doing the activated breath because I feel I'm already running on a sympathetic thing all the time. But like Wim Hof is smashing it with the activated breath. And they do use it in yogi philosophy quite a lot. I would say with the activated breath, you need to make sure you're safe wherever you are. Like, I think it's, Wim Hof says it himself, but like, don't do the breathing in a bloody pool, right? Because what happens is some people go lightheaded. Okay. So you do your breath first, then go into the pool or the ice water, whatever. So if you're going to do your activated breath, you need to make sure you're in a safe environment first. You're sat down, not standing up. You're sat down and you're not in water. You're not going to drown yourself, basically. Okay. So you could there's a couple of different ways to do your active breath. You always make sure you're sitting tall, not crunched over, so your ribs are like nice and tall. And then you could, so in through the nose. You kind of always want to breathe through your nose. James Nestor writes a lot about nasal breathing. Modern day, he's really interesting anyway. Like we have a lot of dental issues nowadays, and we have a much higher palate and a lot more snoring, sinus issues. And it's because most of us actually breathe through our mouth. And it was never really designed to breathe like that. So except with the exhale, I will go out through the mouth, but going in, you kind of want to go in through the nose. So you would always breathe in through the nose. And it's like a short, sharp breath going in for your activating breath. It's like, do you remember we talked about our diaphragm muscle before under the rib cage? You can actually just bring your hands under the rib cage and you'll feel that contracting as you breathe in. So if I put that down like that, and so you pop your hands there, and then as you inhale, you go. You feel that? It's quite strange, isn't it? But that's a good way of training the diaphragm as well. So you would keep that going for as long as you could. Some people are really good at it. Some people you might go for like 15 to 30 seconds, and then you will need to do and start again. Like some people breathe out through their nose as well, and you could breathe in or out through your nose, basically. But there's two different types there's a lot of different yoga types of breathing, but in or out through like short, sharp, activated breath, if you want to feel activated. And like the Wim Hof stuff is great for that as well. So that if you want to get activated, that if you want to, down regulate and slow down, you could just do the sighs, like the inhale and a big sigh through the mouth. In yoga, we have a lion's breath. If you're not relaxing your body enough, you can do this lion's breath. It does look quite funny, but no one's here to judge it. So you would just breathe in through your nose. And as you breathe out, you sigh with your tongue out your mouth, like a lion, basically. Yeah. Another one I like to teach in a yoga class, because some people just feel a bit self-conscious during the lion's breath, is breathing in for 4 and breathing out for 7. So in through your nose for 4 and breathing out through your mouth for 7. Imagine you're breathing out through a straw. And then you could breathe in for 8. And breathe out for longer. You would build that up. A lot of people who don't practice breath work won't be able to do for as long as 8. So start with 4, breathing out for 7. Then maybe change it to 5, breathing out for 8. Until you build that resistance up. And then if you were to just kind of find that balance, if you just wanted to feel a bit more grounded because you're feeling a bit scattered and all over the place, You breathe in for 4. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And you would keep that going for a few times, then maybe make it 5, then take the count for 6. So you could do it that way. I think that's a really good way. That is actually classed as a meditation because you have a single focus. And the single focus is your breath. A lot of people say, I can't meditate, I can't quiet my mind. But when you've got something like breath and counting to focus on, your brain has a focus. So it's not thinking about all the 50 things that you need to do. So it's a really great way to start with meditating and breath work is with the counting.
I think that would be really useful for people in terms of, just using it in their own lives and stuff. In terms of, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was the money aspect. So obviously you've done another podcast where I found out about it, and I loved the way that you framed it in a way that was insightful in the sense that talking about earning more and not worrying about increasing your prices. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is the limiting beliefs that we hold regarding money. A lot of us are like, yeah, I want to be wealthy. Yeah, I want to have all the stuff or whatever. But it's like, do we actually? And it, this comes down to limiting beliefs, which we may or we may not be aware of. So in that podcast, I think you're talking about, we talked about kind of like growing up, depending on what kind of your family dynamics were growing up. For a lot of people, maybe like me, like I'm not from a poor upbringing, just from a generic sort of upbringing. But even my own family, they were like, oh, it's all right for them, they're rich, or it's all right for those people. And it kind of creates that divide of them and
how
us,
the other half live.
Right? How the other half live. There we go. Is that,
That's literally what my parents said.
Yeah. And we almost demonize people who are more wealthy.
Yeah.
We're like, they're not as good people. And we adopt these beliefs growing up because as a child, you need to be part of your community to survive, right? It's essential. You adopt their beliefs because you want to be part of the tribe. You want to be part of the community so you're accepted and you're safe, right? As we get older, these beliefs kind of don't serve us anymore, to be honest, because we want to earn more, but there's part of us that's like, if I have this much money, my parents will think I'm not as nice a person, or, we've all had it. In my life, for example, I'm vegetarian. My family are South African, very red meat eaters, right? For my birthday meal, I want to go to this restaurant that does vegetarian food. And then, you get the comment like, oh, you always want to be fancy. Oh, everything has to be fancy. It's like, actually, it costs the same amount of money. Yeah. But, because it's out of the norm, or maybe it's different, which they view as, it's, you're like, you're no longer in that tribe. You're like, oh, that's too expensive. Or say, for example, you came home with like a new car. The first question your dad might ask you is like, oh, how much did that cost? Oh, how did you afford that? That's all right for some, isn't it? It's like money is a negative. And we grow up with that belief. It's like, oh, I won't get that because they'll say that, or I'll look like this, whatever the case may be. So some of us do is, we've got these, and I'm a healthcare practitioner. This is massive in healthcare. We feel guilty for charging more because we're here to help people, not to make money. But newsflash, we've got bills to pay. We've just got this thing of the nurses striking. They earn hardly any money. They have a degree. They do jobs that nobody else wants to do, but they earn much less money. And a lot of people feel guilty about asking for more money because they want to be seen to help people, not to be out for themselves. It's like, if you earn more money, I'm just out, you're just out for yourself. And we kind of adopt these belief systems growing up. It's like, okay, I'll do this for you. Oh no, don't pay me. Oh no, I feel awful. But you've got bills to pay, essentially. But we just feel like we're not as good a person if we're receiving money for something. And that, I mean, that can relate to any part of life, but I really have noticed it in my online coaching clients who are osteopaths and around healthcare ethical work. So we adopt these sort of limiting beliefs.
I think creatives do it too, in the sense of so I work in like video and photography and stuff and design, and I think for me, and I think where a lot of like my peers come into this, is that you would do it without getting paid because you love doing it. You love making videos, you love doing it, like it's a passion. And I've only recently learnt this, that like, you actually have to make money from your passion. Like if you want to be happy, you want to live a sustained life, you need to make money.
You have to feel fulfilled. It's feeling fulfilled and then financially fulfilled. I like to think of money as energy, and I haven't always felt this way. Like I used to definitely fall into the category of being like, oh no, don't be silly. But then I'm struggling. I'm like, you know what? I've done a 4-year degree. I have a PGcE. I'm an advanced yoga teacher, but why am I still living in my parents' house? You know, I've been there, totally been there. And it's like when you're doing, if you think of your skills as energy, when you're giving out all your energy, but you're not receiving back what you should, you start to build resentment, and then you think like, I need to do something else. I need to do this to make this money. Oh God, they're calling again. They're texting again. You know, you start building resentment when you're not repaid in the same amount of energy as you're giving. So I've definitely, a big change for me is viewing money as energy. And I'm not saying, like, I still don't charge as much as some people charge, but I charge enough that I feel satisfied with what I'm receiving, and I can afford the things I like going to the gym, going for like a nice brunch with friends. Like, I don't go on holidays all the time, but it's nice to be able to have enough money to go on them like twice a year or whatever. What feels right for me and sits well with me. But I was never aware of that until I started going into these like limiting beliefs, and I was like, yeah, that's true. How my parents spoke about wealthy people I did probably absorb that. And I think you do need to kind of break out of that and then ask yourself, like, do I know any wealthy people who are nice? Yeah, of course I do. You know, and they do nice jobs, and they're really nice. So I go around their house, they always offer me a cup of tea, and they're like, do you want some lunch? Like, very lovely people. So I think becoming aware of that limiting belief first, like, where's that come from? It would have served you. Every limiting belief would have served you at some point in your life, but it's probably no longer serving you now if it's limiting you, right? So becoming aware of that is step one. It's the biggest one. Then starting to notice it come up in your life, and then challenging that belief. Like, okay, if I think wealthy people are bad people, but do I know any wealthy people that aren't? Yeah, I do. And now I've challenged it. I've become aware of it. I've challenged it. Now, how am I going to change it? So if I was, for a healthcare person, if I was to have more money, how would that positively affect my life? Well, I'd be able to have more time to spend with my loved ones. I'd be able to have more time to spend on my health, my well-being, doing gym classes or whatever I like to do. I'd be able to have a holiday and actually have time off work. I'd be able to go on nice dates with my partner, or we could enjoy more time together without being stressed about money. I'd be able to expand my business, right? Because let's face it, to have a business, you have to invest into it.
It has to be profitable.
It has to be profitable, but to grow a business, you have to put money into it. Yeah. Building websites, marketing, maybe you take people on. Like, you need to have that income to grow your business. So
ultimately, the business won't be around if you don't make money.
Yeah. I think it's some crazy statistic, like, I think it's Alan Sugar said, like in his books, like in the first year of business, 50% of businesses make a loss, something like that. So, there is always going to be the first initial part of business, which is hard,
Yeah.
but you need it to be going upwards,
Yeah.
right? You don't want it to be the same or downwards. Definitely. If you want, you eventually won't be able to do your passion if you're not getting enough from it.
I definitely think my limiting beliefs come definitely around money, in a sense of like begrudging spending and stuff. I just remember, like, when I first started living on my own, that it was like, oh, can I afford to put the heating on, or can I do X? And it's such a stupid belief to have, but I think it's one that a lot of people have, in the sense of,
Yeah. I mean, for example, if you said, I can't afford to buy whatever it is. So, I don't know. I can't afford to buy, I don't know, Sky or something this week, or something that's useful to you, whatever it is. I can't afford to buy a new coffee machine, whatever it is. Okay. You're going into your day with, I can't afford to buy that. I can't afford to spend that. So how is that help? If you were running towards something, imagine a big elastic band around you with this, I can't afford to. You're running towards your goal, but in the back of your mind is, I can't afford to do this. So this big resistance band is pulling you back. It's like if I said to you, don't think of a blue elephant, classic. What do you think of? Blue elephant. If you're constantly thinking, I can't afford to spend that, you might get towards your goal to a certain extent, but it's going to be a lot harder, because your brain will always think about what you're saying to it. It doesn't think in negatives. So if you say, like, oh, don't think of this blue elephant, your brain goes to blue elephant. If you're thinking about being poor or not being able to afford stuff, your brain will pull it back to that. If you're in an abundant mindset, it's like, I'm going to put the heating on because I'm going to earn this much. I'm going to earn 2,500 in 2 months' time, and I'm going to take these steps to make it happen. I find when you fixate on what you can't afford, you won't afford it.
I think that abundant mindset is really effective, and it's only something that I've, like, come across recently, and framing stuff as, like, I get to rather than I have to. I begrudge going to the gym because I fucking feel tired and I just don't want to. But then I get to go to the gym, which, I don't know, it kind of just makes me think, right, I get to do this.
You're healthy enough to get to go to the gym.
I've got the time to go to the gym. I can, like, work on my own schedule, that I get to go to the gym when it's not busy. Like, all the things of, like, the positives of it, I think really help. One thing that came up in my mind when you were speaking about the money thing is, have you ever read a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Sethi Ramit? No,
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
So he, like, it's a shit title because it's so, like, clickbaity, read this kind of title. But in it, he talks a lot about how we've got these, like, money scripts in our head. And so a lot of people, it's like that I can't afford to pay £3 for a Starbucks latte. And I really like the way that he reframes it, in the sense of, if that's what gets you really excited and you love having that £3 coffee, do it. But then be sensible, in the sense of, right, this is where my other money's going. And if a mate asks you to go to the pub, you say no, because you've allocated that pleasure spending on the £3 cup of coffee, or the new Nike trainers, or the Spotify membership, or whatever. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, where's your
Pleasure. Yeah. I mean, I wish Starbucks coffee was only £3, but it's more like £4, £5
It's gone up.
these
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm not really a drinker. I don't really go out much these days in my 30s. I'm always the gym or yoga, but do you know what? Coffee is
Yeah.
my pleasure. And I think I'm going to have this coffee. Why? I think it makes me a better osteopath. Well, one, because I'm like, yes, I'm starting my day off how I want to start it off. And I'm like, it's, I'll have this coffee because it makes me feel good. And when I feel good, I'm a better practitioner with, for my patients. I turn up more positively and I'm like, buzzing, ready to go because it's part of my routine. I'm not saying caffeine addiction, but,
Yeah.
that's my thing. If I'm like, I can't afford to buy that coffee, I'm already starting off on a negative step. And I think it's like allowing yourself to welcome in that abundance instead of thinking about all the things you shouldn't, couldn't, can't do. It's, I always think, that saying people make time for who they want to see or what they want to do. It's the same for money, right? If someone wants something, they will pay for it. It's all that it comes down to. If they want it, they'll pay for it. And like when I first started off my business, I was like, oh, okay, you're a friend of a friend. I'll give you 50% off, blah, blah. Oh, okay, you're at the kickboxing gym. Yeah, I'll do you a discount, blah, 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 blah. But where does that end me? I'm poor. Yeah. What does that do for me? No. Nothing. Do you know what? They go out and buy some night trainers for £100. Oh, they can afford that, but they couldn't afford for my patient. People are like, oh, I can't afford to see you for my back. I'm like, you just went 2 spoons and spent £50. It's priorities. People will pay for what they prioritize, and it's standing like it's sticking with your values, and again, valuing.
But I don't think people actually pay.
All comes down to being
pay enough attention to what they do value. So that's where the money worry comes in, is because they've not actually looked at their life and gone, what do I like spending money on? Like, I like going to festivals and having a rave like 3 times a year. That's my little like shut off. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't go every weekend. I don't drink at all unless I'm at the festival or warehouse or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like spending money on that. And then, but I think a lot of people, they fall into the trap of spending money unconsciously.
I think that's part of it, but I also think if you were to be too conscious, I mean like counting every penny, you're also limiting yourself because you're not thinking about growth. I honestly have like this real trust in the universe. If it's meant for me, it will come to me. And I say, every week I say, okay, look, it's looking a bit quiet this week. I want to have 20 patients this week. And I say like, please, universe, I need 20 patients this week. And I trust, have that trust. It will come in. Have you ever wanted something and you thought, if this is supposed to happen, it will happen. And something maybe doesn't go the way you thought it would, but something even better comes in. Like, it's just having that trust that it will come in and not being afraid. I think fear with money is massive. It's like, I will count every penny. I always wanted to do my advanced yoga teacher training. It's a month. You take a month off work. If I was to count every penny, I'm self-employed. If I don't work, I don't get paid. And if I was to think like, oh God, I just, this is too much. I can't make it work, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't be earning for a month and where am I going to put my money? Blah, 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 blah. But I was like, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. If that means I have 3 coffees a week, fine. But it always becomes unconscious because I'm so set on what I want. But I'm also not afraid it won't happen.
Yeah.
I just have trust. This is going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I know that the universe wants the best for me. And I know I deserve it because I feel enough, right? Like when you set your prices for your business, it's like, oh, I feel a bit awkward asking for this much money. Why? Because you don't feel enough. When you don't feel enough, other people don't feel that you're enough. You have to give off their energy, like your skills, you're valuable in this way. So once I stopped giving people discount, you know, initially you could be like, oh, you know, when you first start, you're like, oh, people won't be able to afford this, blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel guilty, whatever. Once I was like, this is the price, come or don't come. They were, you know, some people maybe like, oh, okay. And then, do you know what? With the MMA guys, they got offered someone else to sponsor them for free. And yeah, they did go to this new guy for free, whatever. But you know what? When they really hurt themselves, who did they call? They called me, right? And they paid the full price and they were happy with the results and they came back again. So it might not happen straight away, but it's really valuing yourself and your skills and knowing you've got something to give people and you have that service. Like service is so important in whatever you do, however that is. You're providing a service for someone, but feeling fulfilled, one, in that service, but also really valuing your skills and what you have to offer people. And I think having that abundant mindset is part of really feeling enough with what you do and valuing it. And I don't mean being complacent or cocky, because to be an osteopath, you have to, or to do anything, right? Yoga, osteopathy, whatever you do, you have to go and learn, be constantly learning to keep filling up your skills and feeling excited about what you're doing. Like, oh, wow, this is new. This is amazing. This is exciting. And keep that passion, that energy alive. And then that helps you feel more fulfilled in what you have to offer people and standing firm in your costs and what you're charging people. And if you know, my sister is like, that's a bit much. I'm like, mate, they have a private cleaner come to their house once a week. They can afford to have their back cracked 2 times. Like, fine. It's having that self-confidence enough that you don't let outside thoughts bring you down. And I do really think family is key to that, right? Everything comes from childhood. And, you know, they have this saying in yoga, if you ever think you're enlightened, go spend time with your family.
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
And it's so true. It's like feeling enough. Feeling enough is constant work. You don't just feel enough one day and it stays that way. It's constant work. And that comes back to mindset, feeling I am enough. I deserve to be earning this much. One of the worst things I hate people saying is, I need to fix myself. I need to fix myself first. Because you're not broken. No one's broken. No. Like, we are how we are and we're imperfect, but that's perfect, right? I hate when people say, I'm broken, I need to fix this about myself, or I need to fix myself first before I can do this. You're not broken. You're enough as you are. And the more you can recognize that, the more things will start improving in your life, in every aspect, financially, personally, energy, activity, whatever it is.
I think another piece of advice from my perspective is just charge a little bit more every time you do a new project, and see where it gets you, because sometimes you'll go, oh no, like you'll get a load of kickbacks if you charge too much and people are like, oh no, I can't afford it. Then you'll realize, oh, it's probably a bit too expensive. But if you just constantly go, oh, maybe I'll add £100 onto that project,
every year I review my prices. I'm not the most expensive osteopath by any stretch, but I feel good about my prices. Like, I don't feel resentful, like, oh God, like I'm working so hard and getting nothing. I also always look at the people around in my area who are doing this similar work to me and what they're charging. It's probably different with creatives to healthcare, because people will come back for recovered appointments, etc. But so I look at that as well before I set my prices. This year, you know, it's hard, right? Like like in a kind of recession, and people are like nervous about affording their energy bills. So you feel a bit nervous about putting your prices up, but hey, guess what? I've got energy bills to pay too. So it's putting them up, I think, in a fair way, without taking the piss, essentially. But also, you can't keep them like You can't keep them as
No.
they are, because, think about Groupon, right? For example, if you can get this thing, if you pay £60 for something, say an osteo treatment or a physio treatment, £60, and then if you got this voucher and you paid £10 for a treatment, which one are you likely to value more?
The higher one.
Yeah. You see? So if you're underselling yourself, say you've got 10 years of skills training, but you're charging 50% less than someone, think about how your clients are viewing you.
And the kind of
Are you-
clients that you attract as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For example, what would you rather have, like an M&S Swiss roll or a Tesco Value Swiss roll? Which one they could have the same ingredients, but which one are you likely to go for?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think from the perspective of a business owner, people respect you more. So I started a candle brand with my mum, and she was so against charging the prices that I wanted to charge. So £17, which is quite expensive for a candle, I will totally admit that. But I don't want to be in the candle market where it's so saturated and you could go to a supermarket and buy a cheaper candle. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think it's only now starting to pay off, me sticking my ground and going, no, that's what we're charging. Just in the sense of, like, I've had National Trust approaching me to stop the candles, and I don't think that would have happened if they were cheaper.
Yeah. But I think as well, it's like, what can your candles probably have like higher quality ingredients, or they're more sustainable, more organic, or whatever. It's like, I have this thing with life coaches, to be honest, like, so some life coaches have done what, I don't know, a day course, and they want to charge like 20 something grand a year. Like, I've been in the health industry 12 years. I did like a really intensive NLP life coaching course, a lot of hours. And I did so many hours coaching before I qualified as well. I wouldn't feel good in myself charging someone that much money. As much experience as I have, the people that I want to help are not those sort of people. Okay. So depending on what you cost, I mean, you charge, so you have to be able to back that up with whatever you're giving. For example, if, I don't know, your candles are made with like the cheapest wax, whatever they're made of.
So they are handmade soy wax.
Yeah, there you go. They're handmade soy wax. You've got quality products going into it. I think if you have the quality and you're confident in the quality of your services you're offering someone, charge what you think you're worth. And that's, that saying, like, people will say, charge what you think you're worth, fine. But if you've got no filler, it's crap and it will crumble.
And you'll know that subconsciously, won't you? Like, you'll feel like a snake oil salesman and be like, oh yeah, I'm just selling shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not sustainable, right? We might get one, or you might get lucky and get one or something, one or two, but it's not sustainable long term. So yeah, charge what you feel you're worth. But like, you have to really, really feel that worth. Like, your skills, or what goes into your product. You feel confident, comfortable. That's enough. Yes, I feel really good about this. I feel positive. I'm really offering something great to people. This is going to be great. This is going to really be of service to them. You feel good with, and then you set your prices that way. You shouldn't be thinking like, oh, well, people can't really afford this, so I'm going to charge that.
Oh, they could buy whatever candle from wherever.
But they'll just go there, and if I don't charge that, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, charge what you think you're worth and really feel like in yourself good with that.
And be confident in it. Because I think...
Yep. Exactly. If you're not confident, people
can
sense
read it,
that.
can't they? Yeah, I was at a market on the weekend. I love doing it. It's fucking hard work, but I love doing it just because one, I'm interacting with people, and I quite like the sales element of it.
Yeah, talking to people,
Yeah.
connecting, communicating.
But the woman next to me was just watching me, and she was talking. We were talking at the end, and she's like, "You just are really confident in your prices, and you just oh yeah, this one's 17, this one's whatever, the diffusers are." And then I was like, "Yeah, but that's because I believe in what I believe in the product, and I'm like, this is what it's worth. If you want to pay it, fine. If you don't, then I've had a lovely conversation with you." Yeah.
Yeah. What's the worst thing people can say? No.
That's it. Yeah.
Just take the fear away. Take the fear aspect out of it. Because if you're like, either people don't buy it or they try and knock you down, right?
Yeah.
Someone's asked me for discount before in my cafe. I go to this cafe every day. They know my order. Don't have to order. They know it. And they're like, oh, someone that comes in, they was like, oh, do I get this cafe? I go to Cafe Coretto. Do I get a Coretto discount? I said, no, they don't get discount. Pay full price. I was like, I didn't give discounts. And I just stick with it. And I'm fine with that. One, I don't want clients coming in that don't value my services, because what happens then? They don't turn up for their appointment. They don't come on time.
Or in my case, they would be like
the
twat of a client who wants loads of things done, wants in amends, and then is never happy. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So there's loads of things that come with that. So I say, okay, we'll go find another osteopath. Go on then. I feel confident with my skills. I've been doing it long enough. I have a nice client base. They're really awesome, really loyal, genuine people. Same with my yoga classes. They're awesome. They come back each week. Great. And I just have that fulfillment in all parts of what I do. And the same in products, if you're selling products. So it's just having that confidence and, you can say oh, I'm worth it and charge that, but you really have to feel it and believe it and have the stuff to back it up.
Yeah.
So I think that is important.
Do you think there's anything I've missed in the podcast? Was there anything you would like to cover?
No. I think, maybe another time. And we covered a lot about feeling enough. And I think, maybe that's the one to stick to. Feeling loved enough. I'm not loved, so I'm unloved. That always comes down to family, your upbringing, essentially, and how we carry that with us through our relationships. And it may be even in business, if I give them this for free, they'll really value me and you'll receive some sort of love from them. But it's like an unfulfilling type of love.
You're seeking that outside validation, aren't you?
You're seeking outside validation. So when you can feel loved as you are and enough as you are, everything changes. Business changes. I've had that. I've definitely been through that in my life, and it's only kind of now that I've came into coaching. Actually, when I came back from Australia, I had therapy and then coaching, and I was like, oh right, that's what that was. That's why the world was crumbling around me. My relationships were failing. I was never happy where I was working. It's it already starts within ourselves. But it's really easy to blame the world, to blame outside sources.
Society.
And why is this keep happening to me? Why is the world against me? Why do these men always let me down? Or why are my bosses such jerks? So I think, when we bring it back to ourselves and actually explore these limiting beliefs and why we don't feel enough or loved as we are, everything, all parts of our life around us change. Work, business, money.
It's all good, isn't it? Positiveness and optimism, I think, for me anyway, just help life.
Yeah, I think it's about being, again, like we said at the beginning, like being accountable, but being compassionately accountable. You behaved the only way you knew how to at the time. But now that we're stepping up the awareness, we can choose new ways to react or to behave, to respond.
Cool. So like one last parting bit of advice, if you have any for anyone, if they maybe, I don't know, they're feeling lost, they're feeling stressed, what would you say to them?
Meditate. I would say do some breath work. Like four-sided breath is a great way to start. There's tons on YouTube. I have stuff on YouTube under Cat Hill Yoga and Osteopathy, on my Instagram as well, Hill Osteopathy and Coach Cat Hill. 2 different Instagrams there. But four-sided breath is a great place to start. Breathe. I think that's a really great place to start, and maybe just being a little bit compassionate towards yourself. You know, sure, get up and go again, but take a moment to be compassionate and kind of see how far you've come. How would how are you doing now to opposed to Ed or Kat 10 years ago? Look where you are now. Take that in, get some perspective first.
Even
feel
like
that compassionate
a month ago,
yourself.
I think. Yeah,
Even
or a week ago.
Yeah. See how far you've come.
That's all right. So yeah, if people want to find out about you, where can they go?
If you want to find out where can you go, Instagram is the best place. Hill Osteopathy for osteopathy, and Coach Cat Hill for mindset, yoga, breathing.